Do we have to do the react? Because I know what Lock-on's gonna make me do if we do the react. Make me make a YouTube opening for it.
It's fine. I got you. I'm here.
Okay, fine.
I got you. I did it for the previous one. I got you.
Got you. Okay. Alright. Let's go to the react scene. Wait. There we go.
Hey YouTube, this is my full-size model. It's tiny because I'm tiny.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So do we want to do the thing?
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
This is the story of DE Warframe documentation by Noclip Documentaries, I guess? I suppose.
Noclip video game documentaries. Yes. Like, subscribe, explosions, boom, bam, boom, bam,
yeah, boom.
The Digital Extremes had been trying to release.
They made Unreal Tournament?
Yeah.
Wait, did they make Unreal Tournament 4? Because Unreal Tournament 4 was the only, like, really fun shooter game I've ever played. Besides Warframe, actually. Like, that used to be the game I played in the afternoon when I was a teenager.
Volume up a little bit.
Volume up a little bit, guys? Okay,
They made Unreal Tournament. Let's see here. What else did they make? If it shows me games.
Release in some form.
Is that good, guys?
They made
Form or another
for the future of pinball, extreme pinball, whatever the hell that game is. Oh, it's just Unreal. Unreal Tournament, Adventure Pinball, Forgotten Islands, Unreal Champions 2003, Homefront, The Darkness. Excuse me, when did they make this? Hold on. The Darkness 2, Unreal Tournament 2004, and Dark Sector.
Wait, then who made Unreal Tournament 3? That's the one I played.
Let's see. Unreal Tournament.
I also played the one that they made, so I'm still, like, flabbergasted.
And I certainly didn't realize that this curious little free-to-play game was the studio's last chance at survival.
Warframe's been out for 5 years now on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and of course PC. In fact, it spent most of its time on the PC in Steam's top 10
Epic
most
Games, that's the
concurrent
last
players
game I
chart.
played of yours.
But it's also a game that a lot of people know absolutely nothing about. So we thought, what better candidate for a Noclip retrospective than the remarkable story of Digital Extremes and Warframe. This story starts 3 decades ago in the Great White North.
I'm surprised they fucking made The Darkness 2 like home.
Through grade 9 all the way through to the end of university, I always had in my head that I would do games just in my spare time as a hobby. It was always a hobby in my head. I wasn't getting into a real job in games, so I kind of put that out of my head. But yeah, I'd made games all throughout university. I went to university for mechanical engineering and expected to go into mechanical engineering. And one of the little games I was making through university, I got published in this little kind of magazine disc thing called Big Blue Disc. That would be on, you'd see it on the magazine shelves. It would come out monthly, and I was just looking around for something to do with my game that I finished, which is kind of a cool little game, and I sent it to them, and they paid me my $1,200 for the rights to do that. And so I was amazed that I actually made a little bit of money from this tiny little game. And so that's kind of the first stepping stone to get it to the professional and actually money coming in.
What was the game?
It was called Legends of Murder. You can search it online and probably find it. I think I found it somewhere.
Fantastic title.
And it actually works. I was just playing it a couple months ago.
Right.
You can download it somewhere, and it's yeah, it's funny little game. I still thought at that point it would be a hobby in that, and I thought it'd be fantastic if I could make a little bit of extra income from that. And so as I was finishing university, I was a big fan of Star Trek at the time, and it was kind of, and then a game called Star Control had come out. I just loved this idea in my mind of combining those two things, and I ended up making this game called Solar Winds, which was just finishing up as I was graduating university. And right around that time, I knew this game was a little bit bigger, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more viable as a real product. And so I remember playing Hugo's House of Horrors, which was a shareware game at the time. I actually physically wrote an actual letter to David Gray. I do believe his name is. I can't believe I remember that. And I sent the letter off to him. I asked, can people make money from shareware because you're giving it away for free? And he wrote back and he told me about CompuServe. It was a good online area where people discuss games and shareware and stuff like that. And he said, yeah, some people make a few bucks and some people make $1 million. And of course that, my mind exploded. And I think from there, that's where I got onto CompuServe and I found out about Apogee and Epic Games. I met Mark Rain, and the first game ended up being published by Epic Mega Games at the time. I think I was making about $1,200 a month from Solar Winds. And I was like working on my next game. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna go from $1,200 a month to $2,400 a month. So I can actually live reasonable on that. And so it was exciting times, and I just loved the work. And the game that came after that was Epic Pinball. And so as I was making, I was like, okay, this is good. This game is my best yet. It's going really well. And so I was really quite excited about it, thinking, yeah, maybe I'll make more than $2,400 a month.
This is crazy. I gotta add. Just like hearing him talk about how early games are like this and stuff.
Maybe I'll make $3,000.
This is the guy that
like
made.
In my mind, oh my God, $4,000 a month. That would be living in luxury.
Well,
and of
like,
course, it comes
founder,
out.
like the first
and
guy
it
to
was
start
a monster. Like
the idea.
For one person making it was a monster hit, and it just. I just remember my first check was like $50,000. So it was a whole new world, and that was kind of the start of the upward climb.
By the time James had finished his marathon of work on Epic Pinball, he was pretty tired of making pinball games, but Epic Mega Games, the game's publisher, knew that a sequel would be wonderful business. James pushed back, saying he didn't have the creative energy to work on another pinball game. So Epic suggested that he hire some people to do the work for him. This was the foundation of Digital Extremes. And the first game for the team, Extreme Pinball, was another hit. While James's new team was working on pinball, he was taking his first steps into 3D game design. And it's through this that a decade-long collaboration with Epic would begin.
I gotta tell you, that headshot and that double kill thing, I really hope I get to hear what I think I want to hear.
Today we often associate this franchise with Epic Games, but the original games were born out of a tight collaboration between the two studios. Between the two, there were around 16 people working collaboratively on the project. During the development of Unreal, the Epic team travelled to London, Ontario.
You okay, Slim?
Yeah, okay, I'm just watching.
To work on the game, while the team at Digital Extremes traveled to
headshot
Raleigh, North
sound,
Carolina, where Epic is still based, to work
that's
on
nostalgia right there. I used to play
as intense as Unreal was, and
Tournament
hard
3,
and really just trying to ship a game. Unreal Tournament was, I think, felt more creative and a little less
I think 2004
pressure,
was the last one I played.
But that allowed us to
made.
make even a better game, I think. At that point, so my programming contribution went down, and I think I focused more on the art and weapon. I can proudly say I think all the weapon designs are mine for the most part. So,
what are some of your favorite weapons from?
Oh, the flat cannons. Always
yes, the flat cannon.
I was very happy with how that one turned out.
Yeah. Did you put the smiley face at the end
I
of
did.
the alt fire?
I did. I did. Do you know that? I'm not sure if this story's ever been told. We were all
the Redeemer
in North Carolina,
the ultimate weapon of
we're
the
coming
early
back from lunch somewhere, and we
Unreal
walked
Tournament.
past a church called the Redeemer. It's like, hey, that's a great name for the big guy. So,
Pilotable nuclear weapon.
Yes.
Named after a church.
yes.
Great.
Yeah, it was a
I know Cliff had a lot of
piloted
input
nuclear weapon. You
in
could
the
get like
weapons as well, but
a
we
quadra
wanted
kill
something that was
or
more
if you
than
were
just
lucky.
basic shooting.
Like if enough
Combining
people
the
were
alt
stupid
fires
enough to be
add
like
an
all
extra
fighting
layer of
around each
skill
other
on top. So we're always looking for a
and
way
not paying
to
attention
add
and like
that, you know,
obviously
you shoot
missing
the
their
weapon in
shots,
its
you could
basic form and
kill
you can
everyone.
do well. But if you have that extra skill and you can do the combos or whatever, that there's an extra layer of skill that's kind of built on top of the weapons. So that was definitely the intention, as much as we possibly could.
Do you have any favorite maps from that original 99 one?
Facing Worlds.
Facing Worlds was one of my favorite maps. Because I went back and played the older ones.
One of our favorites that we
The
played in the
Redeemer
office.
is
There was
a
lot. There's a lot of really
nuclear
good ones. I like,
warhead that you
Deck
can
16
pilot
was awesome.
on a backpack.
Nisha's map that was
Like
very
the gun
memorable.
had a backpack.
On Championship, pretty
it
much
fired
everything.
from the
I
backpack.
worked on
Oh
weapons
God,
and
it's
progression.
Steve.
I'm a
It's
programmer.
him.
Was how I got my job here. So I
Steve!
programmed weapons, I
I'm
programmed
still-
game modes, I programmed bots, bombing run, like all those kind of things. I remember one time when we moved offices, we had to have an electrician come in, and he had to come in late. I was the only one in the office, so I let him in. And he said, "So you make video games here?" And I said, yeah. He's like, "Whoa, any video games I might have heard of?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know, Unreal Tournament 2003. He said, "Oh yeah, you know, I really wanted to like that Unreal Tournament 2003, but you replaced a sniper rifle with that god-awful lightning gun." And I'm like, "Yep, that was me."
After UT99, the teams continued to collaborate.
Yeah, that was an unpopular
working on Unreal
decision.
Championship for consoles
everyone
and
loved the
Unreal
sniper
Tournament
rifle.
2003.
A lot of people loved
But by
the
the
sniper
time
rifle,
UT 2004 came around, collaborating remotely became much more difficult, as both studios had grown so much. It was during this period
Boka, you
that
said
Epic
these
and
were
Digital
what?
Extremes almost merged. But
This
the idea
model
was
is-
scrapped once they realized the Canadian government would require a sizable tax payment up front. And so instead, like college roommates after the last day of class, Digital Extremes and Epic Games went down their own different paths. After the release of Unreal Tournament 3, Epic would go on to partner with Microsoft Studios to create the Gears of War franchise. And Digital Extremes had a big idea of their own, a sci-fi action MMO they were calling Dark Sector. They poured their creative energy into this project, hoping it would be the key to a new era for the studio. And in fact, it was. But instead of sending them down the path of creating an entirely new franchise for them to own, the demo kept securing them work-for-hire projects.
So yeah, the old DE that I worked at made some cool Unreal games with Epic, and then we hit the pitch circuit, right? Here's our idea for games. You know, we tried to make this crazy sci-fi game that was called Dark Sector, that wasn't the Dark Sector that shipped. And that was, I remember that was living out of a suitcase for 6 months, traveling Europe and West Coast with a tech demo in a cube PC. You walk in, you show this tech demo, and they say, "This is awesome, this is great. How would you like to make the sequel to this game instead?" Right? So, you know, that wasn't really, I mean, it was very creatively upsetting and kind of soul destroying, because you're putting everything into this, but it got us work. Publishers have their franchises and they want to build on that. And so we did that. We did what we call work for hire. Work for hire is, we're going to pay you a lot to grow an extreme amount to your breaking limit. So you have all these people to take care of with their families, their mortgages, and their hopes and dreams. We're going to pay you just enough to get to the end of the project. You better pray it earns out so you can get your royalties back.
If I look back on my career, it was probably my biggest personal mistake was to, you know, we had some good money coming in. We weren't that big. We were quite successful, but we had our eye on, like, you know, let's make something like the next Halo, like something huge, right? Because the games were at that point were getting bigger and bigger, and that was exciting to us. And we wanted to be, you know, AAA, huge, biggest games. And so we'd come up with a demo or pitching ideas to publishers looking to use their money to make some product. And it was definitely a challenge that went on with us for many, many years, looking for that product of our own. When possibly the better decision at the time would be to have been taken our own money and made our own small little product that was fully funded ourselves, that wasn't striving to be that big, massive blockbuster.
then that's your own money. It's more risky. You could...
More risky, but then you have full control over it, because just when you're doing a work for hire project, I mean, it's their money, so you're doing what they want, and maybe you never know exactly what they want, or they don't know what they want. And if you look at our history and most independent studios' history, when they have full control, complete control over the product they're making, which often only comes if you're funding it yourself, you will make a better product.
For over a decade, Digital Extremes would work predominantly in the cutthroat world of work for hire. What many studios do when they're in this situation is scale up for projects and then conduct widespread...
One thing I want to say is it's like crazy, like, to do what they did. So if you didn't understand that little part where he said, if you pray that your game does really good, they literally meant it. Like, if even one of the games they made failed, that probably would have been the end of the studio. Because, like you said, you had all these families you had to pay, like, to keep them going. And, like, those were some of your oldest or best workers. Because game companies actually cared about their, you know, staff back then. And you wouldn't see Warframe right now if even one of these games they made failed. At, like, in any capacity.
Playoffs afterwards.
Because they had to make enough money to get royalties afterwards.
And Digital Extremes was the only studio in town. His employees had roots, families, friends, mortgage payments. So him and the team did anything they could to keep contracts coming through the door. What this meant was that their Dark Sector idea...
Their Dark Sector idea had to take basically a back seat and just watch other games get made. Because, like, you miss one of those games. One of those games is a miss. Warframe would have died right then and there.
Down the road while the team worked to keep the lights on. The studio partnered with Toronto-based Groove Games on Unreal Engine shooter Pariah and its sequel of sorts, Warpath. They took a contract to help create the PlayStation 3 port of BioShock, all the while shipping around their dark...
They made they helped make the PS3 port of this? I played that. This was like one of my first real, like, computer games. I think it started out with Adventure Quest for computer games. Then I played a lot of, like, Flash games. Then it was Maple Story and... I'm trying to remember what the first computer game was. It was Oblivion, that's right. And then I played BioShock, because Dad was playing it. And I would watch them on their desk. I would just sit behind them and watch them play BioShock. I was young.
Dark Sector game.
We had this idea, what would Metal Gear and like the Dark Crystal be if you put them together? So of course there would be like anime energy tentacles coming out of people's heads. There would be really cool robots, but the metal would be organic and changing. You know, we had a lot of ideas. Science fiction that wasn't necessarily just like James Cameron science fiction. We wanted maybe some Frank Herbert science fiction. So we had these kind of ideas, and I went off and wrote a whole bunch of stuff about these characters, and the artists, you know, Mike Brennan designed these beautiful, kind of very interesting.
Go ahead and go to bed. I think we're gonna get ready for bed in like 2 hours.
Original kind of what became our Excalibur suit, and we went around and pitched it.
Slime, you're getting off after this.
This was
a little bit after this.
This was kind of when Halo was sort of a thing starting to emerge, but every publisher said,
sorry, my chair.
Consistently, every time.
Wait. So this is like the beginning of Warframe itself. They were already making concept for like the Grenier and stuff. They already made Excalibur, it looks like. The main character was Excalibur from the very beginning.
The good guys send in our boy. Here he is, Hayden Tenno. Looking nice in his ancient Excalibur armor suit.
Told by your sister now, you share the same model technically. Congrats.
All right, so there he is, and this is the perspective of our game. It's sort of an over-the-shoulder mixed third-person, first-person type control scheme.
The whole thing with
We've
me
got
working out.
On the left analog stick, we have move and strafe.
We'll
like
find out
have in a
afterwards.
game like Halo.
I'll tell you how afterwards.
And
but that's crazy
right
that they had an idea. This is why Excalibur is the face of Warframe. Like, this was the first ever Warframe created. You think, oh, it was all three of them? No,
Bruh.
just Excalibur. Like,
Yeah.
early Excalibur and Grenier were the first, like, at least it looks like the first antagonists
right stick
created.
We've got look, aim. So we see the suit at all times, but we have essentially what is a first-person control scheme.
Back then, you were really beholden to publishers to get your games out. There wasn't digital distribution.
Here's the other thing, and I think what's his name, Pirate Software has said this. You don't need a publisher anymore. Screw the publisher. Put your game on Steam. You'll make the money. If it's a good game, they will come and they will buy it. You don't need a publisher.
Good night, Boka, and everyone.
Good night.
You know, you needed to get your game onto a retail shelf, and to do that was really expensive. And there was no way for kind of independent developers to be able to foot that bill. You know, you have to manufacture a certain amount even to get onto store shelves, and you have to pay all of that up front, along with, you know, the licensing fees that come with that, and being
like, you shouldn't be giving them the amount of money they get for what they do.
Independent developer up until about, I'd say,
you can
5 to 7
advertise.
years ago. Was
They're not doing anything you can't do.
Really difficult.
I mean, you talk to any kind of mid-sized developer, even these days, I think it's and especially back then, it was a huge challenge because the games were becoming bigger and bigger. And the mid-sized games, it was really even more hit or miss if they were to even gain any traction in retail.
As that runway was running out, and
Excalibur had a person inside.
I was getting desperate, and we were getting chain yanked by publishers. You know, one publisher said, well, we don't like the hero, he's too feminine, can he have an eye patch? Like,
What the frick is that, for one? And two, I see where they got the idea for Warframe 1998. What was it, 1990 or 1999?
literally crazy things like that. It was getting so close to signing, but just wasn't. And it was dragging on and dragging on. So we did a pivot. We said, oh, it's gonna be, okay, those sci-fi stuff, fine. Okay, so it's gonna be more like Resident Evil than it is gonna be like, you know, Dark Crystal in space. So we...
Guys, the Lotus symbol. They already had an idea. I don't know if this was like decided to be Lotus, but they already had a symbol that they wanted to have for like overarching characters.
We kind of made these compromises in order to land the deal, and we did.
The Dark Sector that was eventually released looks almost nothing like the original pitch video. They took off the protagonist's mask. Instead of being a space soldier, he was now part of the CIA. It played less like Metal Gear and more like Resident Evil 4 or Gears of War. But they did keep the name, Hayden Tenno, a term they'd use again in the future. Dark Sector received above average reviews when it was launched in March of 2008, but it came out in a tough market as it was an incredibly popular time for third-person action games.
Flailed around for a while trying to find its footing and find what the actual gameplay was and how we integrated the glaive with the gunplay and the cover system that was in existing games like, you know, like Gears was inspiration, but we wanted to do something a little bit better, a little bit more fluid.
I mean, that's the difference between what the publisher at the time wanted with the game. They wanted something that was more grounded
really cool.
and more kind of set in reality that people could relate to.
Is it a skin in Warframe, the original Tenno?
Digital Extreme's Dark Sector project hadn't gone exactly the way they wanted to, but at the very least it had been competitive at market.
Cool.
Plus, the team had another game out the door.
They continued doing work for hire gigs. They developed the multiplayer for BioShock 2 and Homefront. They designed The Darkness 2 for 2K and secured a contract to make the video game for an upcoming Star Trek movie. But the squeeze on mid-tier games was getting worse and worse for publishers. Rising development costs meant that the revenue required to make each of these games a financial success was rising with each year. Digital Extremes found themselves caught in the crossfire.
Well, I think a lot of publishers moved all that stuff internally, and you know, that mid-tier developer, you know, I think we saw the writing on the wall is those pitches and those things were harder to do, and the quality bar that the publisher required and the risks they were willing to take they weren't willing to take them anymore. So it was like, okay, well, we're gonna have to figure out something else.
You know, Star Trek's ramping down rather, and soon, you know, there won't be any more milestone payments coming in to keep the lights on. This other project that we had started that we thought was going to get greenlit, that publisher had a bad quarter and are now doing everything in-house. You know, like these are literally things happen.
It was a very challenging time, and it was definitely hard to get those, to work with a publisher to get those.
That's kind of crazy. BioShock 2 was one of my favorite games.
Real potentially high quality products funded, because there was so much at stake. Like, to compete, you need to put more money in them. And then at that time, we're looking at free to play, and we heard amazing things about some of the more, I mean, World of Tanks is the most perfect example. They did phenomenal. I don't know what the budget was, but it clearly wasn't like a $100 million budget to ship that out the door. And we love the idea of the fact that, you know, you can initially ship something smaller, and we'd seen this in a few other games, and then grow beyond there. So it really seemed really appealing to us, that concept where you could try something out, see if the fans like it, and then grow as needed.
You know, the inspiration was, can we make something small? I mean, back the clock up 2 years, that would have been an XBLA game, right? But XBLA didn't seem to be landing the hits that maybe independent developers like we were hoping it would. And so that seemed like, okay, well, here's another option. My interest was not, you know, free to play, let's bilk the players, right? My interest was, well, the scope of that sounds like something we could do with how much we have left. And it better work, because that's it.
Was it scary, the idea that, like, because you're not swimming in capital?
It was our last, it was a Hail Mary. It was like, it really was.
How close to closing were you guys, or how close to bankruptcy?
Yeah, really close, really close. Yeah, I can tell that story. It was pretty, it was super close. It was, we knew that this was our last chance, and we had a couple $1 million extra, like, to do this with. We studied all the games out there, a couple, like a game called Drakensang, which I really enjoyed at the time, and World of Tanks, and was it Battlefield Heroes, I think had done all right. So we were looking at anything out there that looked like it was sustaining itself. I told Steve and the guys, you know, you got 12 months. That's it. There's like nothing but 12 months.
We had tried to make a version of Dark Sector multiple times. We had made this kind of weird MMO prototype using Unreal, and we had kind of servers and you could jump between them, and it was kind of starting to feel almost like, you know, it was very precursor. The original Planet side was coming out, and we're like, oh man, and World War II Online, like people were starting to make these kind of action games, but with an MMO context. We were really attracted to that.
Steve had always thought of a Dark Sector sequel where we go back to the Space Ninja demo that we had done, and he's thinking like a small space pirate raid. So we'd kind of do randomly generated ships. You'd raid these ships, get loot, and come back. With that original idea of his, you know, he kind of thought of it as a small, maybe like PSN or Xbox Live game type of thing that we just never really had the opportunity to make. So when we were thinking about going into the free-to-play, this seemed like a really good, small, tangible demo that we could make, and it was, for us, it was like this thing we really loved that we really never got to execute on.
A few of us went to James and said, okay, we think we can do this really fast if it's this and it's small scope. and we think that co-op is not served as it gives us an opportunity not to be kind of going against the giants.
The team had a round of layoffs, but they were still 250 people large. Steve was put in charge of a small group, around a dozen people, who put together the demo for this new free-to-play game.
So the idea, I kind of figured that might have been the base idea. Space ninjas, basically.
Taking ideas as early as the original 2000s Dark Sector
they combined
MMO,
Space Ninjas
and
with
much of
this
the
guy.
gameplay and visuals from their failed 2005 pitch of Dark Sector, they put together a demo of their spaceship raiding game in just under 2 months. Then Stephen Meredith went back on the road to try and pitch this game to free-to-play publishers looking for any sort of cash injection to help them keep the lights on.
And we had the largest free-to-play publishers in the world, the richest. You know, I don't need to name them, but you can just like Google, who's the richest? Here they come. And they walked in and they said, this is great. I can't believe this. What an exciting meeting. I'm so good. And in slow motion, and the record needle scratch because it was sci-fi.
Right.
And they just walked out.
As soon as they saw that it was PvE and sci-fi, it was yeah. And we were like, what?
I mean, at that same time, I remember one of those guys that came to the studio, they did the tour, they looked at what we've been building, and his reaction was interesting. It was, this is the best looking free-to-play game I've ever seen. You will fail. Dave and I just looked at each other. Oh, kill me now. So why are we gonna fail? Well, because the game can't look this good and update as often as you need to build your community. And of course that was like branded on my ass, like frequent, fast updates. How are we gonna do this? So a lot of early tech in Warframe, like the procedural levels and that sort of stuff, completely geared to that kind of idea of frequent updating. Those publishers didn't bite. And so it was, can we make money before the end of the year? And that was like, okay, so 9 months to make a game.
When the team tried to make the original Dark Sector, the need...
Where is this weapon? I want this weapon. What is this? Like an exploding axe of some kind? I want a Tenno like this. I want a Warframe like this. Look at it. It's like feral and demonic. Like way more demonic than
looks like a giant
Sepagoth. Looks like a hammer, but it looks like it explodes because it looks like that's explosive and stuff. And then that is like a giant Comac right there. I want the giant Comac.
To get a publisher influenced that game dramatically, but this time Digital Extremes didn't have time to retool the game for publisher needs, and frankly, they didn't want to. They knew what type of project they were making, a free-to-play Space Ninja game they were currently calling Lotus. But what they didn't know was whether or not
That's crazy. The name of the game became like the overall mother character of the game.
This game would be enough to help save the company.
This project was a massive shot in the dark. Not only had the team never made a free-to-play game before, but this game was going to be responsible for keeping a studio of 250 people afloat while they scrambled to look for more work-for-hire gigs. What actually transpired wouldn't only shock and surprise DE, but the entire video games world. In the next part in this series, we take a look at the remarkable story of Warframe. See you then.
Alright, so I'll get a position here and left trigger.
And it's slime?
And this is a contextual area where
Slime
I can
sleep, I think.
hang, jump up, drop down.
Oh, but yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? That through all that, the start of Warframe started with Lotus as the name of the game, and Excalibur was always first character ever. Didn't even have a concept for Mag. Didn't even have a concept for Gold.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like, that's pretty cool to think about. And that, like, all the people that bought that first Excalibur package, which I'm guessing was like the first big package for the game, are literally the reason we have Warframe today.
Yep.
So I kind of like understand why they're the only ones to get to have Excalibur
Can we
prize.
throw stuff at the Boka tree form?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand why that's like that. Cause like, oh yeah, I forgot. I have to fix throw. Give me a sec, guys. I have to close it and open it again. But yeah, that's pretty cool. We'll watch more of it later, probably. Like, see the more detailed stuff. Because it says part 1. I'm guessing there's 2 parts. Yeah, there's 2 parts. But that's pretty crazy to think about. Yeah, we'll watch part 2 next time. Because Slimy's good asleep.
I was gonna say, yeah, and I'll be wide awake for it instead of lightly passing out here and there.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But everyone say thank you to Slime for hanging out with us for this long. Blah.
I like to subscribe to explosions.
Yeah, explosions. No.
Wait. Hey guys, go watch me on twitch.tv/BokaTheDragon. Okay, now we can.